Thank you for coming to my presentation of how to integrate PlayFab and Photon into Unity to create a working game chat. This presentation will follow closely with the game chat documentation that is provided on my SIP website. The pre-requirements for this project assume that you have created a PlayFab account, which can be located at playfab.com, a Photon account, which can be created at photonengine.com/en-us/photon, as well as downloaded Unity. For this project, we are using Unity 2017.3.0. Any version above Unity 5.x should work for the purpose of this project though. To begin, you will want to open up Unity and create a new project. You can name this project whatever you would like to name it. Once the project is up, you'll want to refer to the PlayFab SDK and get it imported into your project. I provided a link here in the game chat documentation. Once the link loads, you'll want to come down to download PlayFab SDK. With Unity open, just like this, when you click the package, you'll get the Unity package here. When you tell it to open, it will immediately bring the project resources into Unity. This may take a minute or two, but it will download and decompress all the assets. You'll want to tell it import. Once the PlayFab SDK is finished downloading, you'll want to look up Photon Unity Networking Free, and you'll want to import this asset into your project. Import all the assets. Once Photon Unity Networking Free has finished importing, the Pun Wizard will start up and give you this screen. It's asking for either a Photon Cloud app, your app ID, or an account used to access one. At this point, we're going to leave this blank. We're not going to close it, we're not going to hit skip, and we'll come back to it here in a minute. Our next stop is going to be PlayFab. When you created your PlayFab account, you more than likely created a new studio. If not, you can do so here, which will create a new game. From here, select the game, then add-ons, then come down to multiplayer and Photon. Here, you'll see the install Photon button. When you click it, you'll be prompted for the real-time app ID or the chat app ID. Currently, we do not have either of these. From this window, we can move to our Photon account, and we will be creating two new apps. The first will be a real-time, which will give us the app ID to go here. You'll want to fill in the name, the description, and then hit create. The app ID is here. We'll place that in the real-time app ID, and we will create another new app. This time will be Photon Chat. Once you've given a name and a description, hit create. Here we have the app ID for the chat app, which can go here. At this point, we have installed Photon onto our PlayFab title or our game, but we have to come back and manage both our chat app and our real-time app. To do so, go back to your dashboard and make note of your title ID, which is this number right here. Back on Photon, for each of the applications, you'll want to go to Manage, come down to Authentication, hit Custom Server. You'll want to type in the string with your PlayFab title ID here, It can also be found in the Photon PlayFab game chat documentation under steps 4 and 5. Here's the authentication URL, and this is where you replace the title ID. I would copy it, since you have to do this for the chat app and for the real-time app. And again, we need to do this for the real-time application as well. From the dashboard, you'll want to locate the real-time app, which is indicated by this blue background, and copy the app ID. Go back into Unity and paste that app ID here. Then hit Setup Project. You'll see here that we have the ability to go to Photon server settings. At this point, you can close the Asset Store tab, as well as go to Window, Photon Unity Networking, and highlight Server Settings. In the inspector for the server settings, we'll change the region to US. We already have the real-time app ID. And at this point, we can bring over our chat app ID. From here, save the project. At this point, our Unity project has all the base components to start to run Photon and PlayFab. At this point, we'll continue into creating a working chat scene. To begin, click on Assets, create a new folder, and we'll call it Scripts. In the Scripts folder, you will want to get the chat template, which can be retrieved from the Google Drive link in the Photon PlayFab game chat documentation. Once you have it downloaded, you want to import new asset. Before we continue, in the documentation I do have a link to a utility for PlayFab in order to create registered PlayFab users. If you are signed into your PlayFab account, when you come to the register PlayFab user and use the API call sample request, it will preload the current title ID of your game, or if you have multiple games, it will list out all the games that you have. For the game you're using for this project, you'll want to create a display name, enter an email, create an easy password, as well as a username. Note the display name and the username are different, but to make things easy, we'll be using test as both. When you call the API, you should get code 200 and status OK. This should tell you that the user was created successfully. If you'd like to verify that, you can go to your game, into Players, and you should see your first user created here. And this will be their display name. Now that we have a user created, at this point in time we want to create 3 game objects for our scene. We can do this by going to Game Object, UI, Text, Game Object, UI, Button, Game Object, UI, Input Field. When they're in the scene, you can take a few moments to resize them to your liking. I like to come in here and change the text for the button, just so that it reads as send. The text box will serve as our medium to receive all messages on the channel. The button can be an option to send whatever text that we input, and the input field will hold the data that we want to send to the given channel. Next, we'll want to connect all of our objects. To start, we want to add our chat room UI to our text box. We'll want to drag and drop the chat room UI onto the text. When you select the text box, the chat room UI script is here. From here, we want to map our input field and our text field by dragging into the appropriate placeholders. Once that is complete, the following fields will need to be filled in. Our channel array for this project will have one channel, and we'll call it global. Our title ID in this particular instance was A344. You'll want to enter your own title ID here. The username that I created was test, and the password was test1234. At this point, you should have the input field linked, size 1, global as the channel to connect to, the text should be linked, your title ID should be in, and your username and password should be entered. From here, it can be a good idea to create another folder. We'll call it scenes, and we can save our current scene as, say, main. Before we continue, we need to make an adjustment to the button and the on-click event, as well as the input field onEndEdit event. First, you want to select the plus and drag in the text object here. This will give you access to all scripts on that object or other functions that the object may hold. You want to go to Chatroom UI and select on-click send. What this will do is when you click the send button, it will grab the text that is in the input field and send it to the server. Much the same on the input field, on EndEdit, we want to hit the plus, bring over the text object, go to Chatroom UI, but this time we want to use on enter send. This way, whenever the enter key is pressed, it will take any text we have in the box and send it up. At this point, congratulations. When you hit play, you should start to see in the console several debug log messages. When you see connected to front end and your user has joined the channel, you have successfully connected to your first working game chat. When you type in and hit enter, it will send up and you'll get confirmation that your message was sent. And if you decide to limit the sending via button, that is another way that you can also send that same chat message. This concludes part 1 of the video. Part 2 will go over the code in the Chatroom UI script, a little bit more in depth about how the different functions and API calls work. From here, I hope you enjoyed getting your project set up and seeing how easy it really is to set up a multiplayer game chat in your Unity project. Thanks, and have a good evening.